Beating the All Blacks has seemingly been an impossible task over several decades. An aura, a feel of invincibility about the mighty Silver Fern, and every player wearing the black jersey. A play style that involves running rugby and capitalising on every mistake the opposition make. That thought, though, almost seems nostalgic, and it's a great thing for international rugby. It's undeniable the All Blacks and New Zealand rugby are going through tough times. But what exactly is causing the All Blacks' slow fall from grace? There's a lot of big issues covered in this video, and I'm not sure all of them may be the direct cause, but that's where I need your input in the comments. Let me give you some background information. The 2022 All Blacks have broken many records that the players would not be proud of. First time in 119-year history, 3 consecutive defeats on home soil. They've achieved an equal record low ranking of 4th, and on top of this, the All Blacks winning percentage was really below expectations, just 61% in 2022. A quick disclaimer here, we might not all agree on every point I'm about to make, and that's what makes the comment section so interesting. I love hearing all of your thoughts and perspectives on the issue, and honestly I learn a few things, so here's my personal opinion. Number 1, the gap is closing in international rugby. Leagues in the Northern Hemisphere have never been stronger. It's not that the All Blacks are necessarily getting worse, it's that the rest of the world is getting stronger. There was once a point in time where Super Rugby was the premium rugby competition. However, as it currently stands, Super Rugby has been in shambles since COVID. South Africa packed up their bags and joined competitions around Europe. The Sunwolves and Jaguares both got kicked out of Super Rugby and have since been disbanded. Now, the consequences due to the demise in Super Rugby weren't big, they were massive. The 2 countries left in Super Rugby are the 2 countries that have taken the biggest nosedive internationally. South Africa haven't seen this demise as much, with their national teams competing in high-level competitions throughout Europe that weren't as affected in my opinion. Therefore, while the quality of competition has been getting weaker in Super Rugby, the quality's been getting stronger in other overseas competitions, leading to New Zealand rugby players not as prepared for the intensity of Test rugby. Secondly, the coach, Ian Foster. Ian Foster has a pretty ordinary win percentage compared to other All Black coaches. Have a look on the screen, his record compared to any other coach in the last 20 years is really poor. Besides his personality being a fantastic target for the media, Foster has really struggled to put together consistent wins for the All Blacks. In 2 years at the helm, coaching 57 games, he's almost had more losses than Steve Hansen's 7 years in charge, coaching 210 games. I'm not an expert coach, and I definitely don't have the qualifications of Ian Foster, but the All Blacks love playing that cross-kick football at the moment to slow down and spread the defensive line. They still look to punish teams off mistakes, but it feels like the only thing they're missing is a barnstorming centre, like the good old days of Ma'a Nonu or Sonny Bill Williams. Where the hell is Lamapi to capitalise on all this space? Odin Barrett and Richie Maunga do a fantastic job spreading that defensive line, and they simply just need someone to charge it up the middle. And also, there's another elephant in the room. I'm sure many of you agree with me. When will Scott Robertson get a go? The bloke is a coaching freak with literally the best coaching record. I don't know if anyone else could even come close to the feats he's achieved in his time. And he is really being patient, waiting for that All Blacks role. Honestly, if he's not signed after the next World Cup, please Australian Rugby sign Scott Robertson. Thirdly, a similar issue seen in many countries, the lack of love and attention to grassroots rugby. This is a systemic problem happening with World Rugby at the moment. Former coach of the All Blacks, Steve Hansen, has launched a scathing attack on New Zealand Rugby Board, saying the relationship between the players and the board has never been weaker. Clubs are folded, crowds and ratings are falling, and participation is declining. Again, this is a similar story in so many countries. Now, I'm not exactly sure about this, but from what I found online and comments on previous videos, New Zealand faces very similar problems to Australia and the UK, where a handful of private schools have positioned themselves as the only pathway to a professional rugby career. Unable to compete, the rugby programs at other schools have been neglected or shut down. And many people are starting to point out that narrowing the feeder system for these professional teams is the root of the problem. Super Rugby teams are often just picking players straight from a school level, and it's usually from those elite high schools, completely skipping the club level that once built players' resilience and expose them to the intensity and diverse playing styles. Players today are groomed and developed to fit into what has become a hyper-professionalised model, preferred by a small subset of teams, totally devaluing club rugby across the board. When I did my research into New Zealand rugby, there's some interesting stats, especially at a schoolboy level. 2011 to 2018, participation in rugby for teenage boys dropped by 17%. The number of high school teams fell from 225 to 181, and I can't see these numbers being any better after COVID. This has also resulted in what used to be a seemingly dominant under-20 side year after year having really lackluster results since 2017. Number 4, the constant poaching and raids on New Zealand rugby players. To no one's surprise, New Zealand could field multiple squads at the World Cup and be highly competitive. New Zealand rugby stocks remain the most popular to pillage for America's Major League Rugby, Japan and Europe competitions. I'm sure many of you have heard of this statistic. In 2019 Rugby World Cup, 57 New Zealand-born players who instead played internationally for other countries. Gareth Anscombe, Sean Maitland, Marco Vunipola, Lucan Salakai-Loto, Quade Cooper, Tim Nanai-Williams and Bundy Arki, just to name a few. Then there's players who are just absolute guns that play overseas because of the bigger paychecks. There are tons of these players, most notably Charles Piutau, one of the best players in the world, who was unable to play international football for eligibility reasons. There's clearly some issues in New Zealand rugby at the moment, but there are a few things happening that make me feel it's not going to continue its decline. They still won the rugby championship, they still are regarded as the best in the world despite world rankings, and women's rugby is growing. They just won the Women's World Cup and have significantly increased participation. I think we need to also discuss the Silver Lake deal here. Earlier in 2022, a $200 million deal between Silver Lake, a private US company, and New Zealand Rugby was confirmed. Basically, Silver Lake have invested in the All Blacks, gaining approximately 6% of New Zealand Rugby's profits moving forward. People aren't sure if it's a good thing for rugby or it's a bad thing, but a lot of this money being divided up into grassroots rugby, which is what was one of the main problems earlier. What this deal came down to is New Zealand Rugby really had no other option. If they wanted to keep their players and keep rugby growing in New Zealand, they needed to take the deal. With the long-term future of this investment uncertain, you have to think that a massive global organisation pushing for success in New Zealand Rugby can't hurt the game. If I'm missing something about this, please educate me in the comments. Although 2022 has been lackluster for the All Blacks, we definitely can't write them off. This probably makes their players, management and fans hungrier than ever. There's no denying New Zealand has the best talent going around in world rugby. It's just whether or not the New Zealand Rugby Board can pull all the strings together and get a system that will grow the game and have success at an international level. Let me know what your opinion is on New Zealand Rugby at the moment. I know there's people all over the world that watch my videos from all different countries. Let me know if some of these issues that I found with New Zealand rugby are happening for you in your country. Is grassroots rugby a problem where you live? Is schoolboy rugby given too much value? Have crowds participation and TV ratings started to drop? Or are you just similar to me, really excited to see highly competitive international rugby where in the top 10 it's anybody's game? Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate every subscribe, every comment, every like, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks guys.